Have you ever wondered how successful architecture, engineering, and construction companies scale their business?
Or have you ever wanted guidance on how to get more growth, wealth, and freedom from your AEC company?
Well, then you are in luck. Hi, I'm Will Forat.
And I'm Justin Nagel, and we're your podcast hosts.
We interview successful AEC business leaders to learn how they use people, process, and technology to scale their businesses.
So sit back and get ready to learn from the industry's best. This is
Building Scale.
Hey listeners, it's Will here. Our mission is to help the AEC industry protect itself by making technology easy. If you've ever listened to our show, then you know that the three pillars of scaling a business are people, process, and technology. So if you suspect technology is your weak link, then book a call with us to see where we can help maximize your company's IT and cybersecurity strategy. Just go to buildingscale.net/help.
Today's guest is Jon O'Brien. Jon has been the executive director of the Keystone Contractor Association since 2017. In his role, he oversees a commercial construction trade association that is active throughout most of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. KCA is renowned for providing the construction industry labor relations, safety services, workforce development, business development, and community service. Jon is also the co-host of the Building PA podcast, or possibly Building Pennsylvania podcast. We'll ask him in a second. Jon is also a huge advocate for mental health and drug abuse in the construction industry, which we will dive into today. He's a graduate from the University of Pittsburgh with a dual degree in journalism and history. He's also a Navy veteran. Thank you for your service since 95 there. And then outside of work, Jon loves to spend time supporting the community in Dillsburg, Pennsylvania. He enjoys life with his lovely wife, the three beautiful daughters, and Cammy, his boxer dog. So with all that said, Jon, welcome to the show. Tell us PA, or is it Pennsylvania podcast?
It's PA, which stands for Pennsylvania. So we wanted to nice, simple, people could say, roll off their tongue, whatever, Building PA podcast. So, yeah, it's fun. It's a good thing. And Cammy's my little sidekick, my little office partner here. And hopefully we don't hear her today. You called to talk to me, not her. So
it's okay. I understand how it is with our canine friends. Sometimes they want the spotlight just as bad as we do. So I get it.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's all good.
Also, I love that Pennsylvania is the Commonwealth. That's like a thing that I always remember every 4 years, generally during election time, because that's what I keep saying, the Commonwealth. So that is just, I'm a nerd on that. But you're a history guy, so maybe you nerd on it as well, perhaps.
A little bit, yeah. Maybe not as much on those topics, but yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So, Jon, I said all this good stuff. Tell us about the origin story, though. How did you get into the construction space? And then tell us about Keystone Contractor Association.
Absolutely, yeah. Sounds good. Yeah, my journey to the KCA started right down the road where I live actually now. I'm in Dillsburg, Pennsylvania, which is south central Pennsylvania. Located outside of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, our state capital. And I grew up in Mechanicsburg. And after high school, went to the Navy, served our country for 4 years. That was a blast. It was awesome. I'm glad I did it. Met some awesome people from around the country. And then after that, I wanted to be the next great sports writer. And I'm like, well, you got to go to a big city if you want to be a sports writer. So I went to Pittsburgh and University of Pitt, and diehard Pitt Panther fan, so I cry a lot in the fall because they tend to lose more than they win. But yeah, it is what it is,
Sun Devils fan, I got the same problem, man.
There you go.
And even though I don't watch college football, I'm a Bears fan, and so I'm right there with you.
Oh man, yeah. Yeah. So I was at Pitt and majoring in journalism. And I graduated and got engaged and thought I need to find a real job here, And I was hired by a steel structures painting society. And I was writing, because of my journalism background, writing technical papers and certifying bridge painters all around the world. And kind of did that for 2 years and wasn't really my thing, So job opened up at a commercial construction trade association located in Pittsburgh. called the Master Builders Association. And I spent 12 awesome years there. It was a blast. I love the Pittsburgh construction community. Was a great introduction to this industry, and it's just great, the construction industry, how they give back, and just kind of the best people in society are construction professionals. Just awesome people. They care about their communities, they build their communities, and they're always worried about their communities. So, I did that, like I said, 12 years, and then this position opened up in the Harrisburg area for the Keystone Contractors Association. And I married a Pittsburgher and had 3 daughters in Pittsburgh. So I had to ask them first, say, hey, what do you say? You want to move east a couple hours? And they said, sure, let's try it out, So we left the city, and now we live in the farm country, and life is good, So it's fun. So that's how I got the KCA.
For a Pittsburgher, I've not heard that terminology, but I love it. I wish I was from Pittsburgh, so I could say I was a Pittsburgher.
Or you could say you're a Yinzer. They call themselves Yinzers. Yinzers or Pittsburghers. So
take
your pick.
Right.
Take your.
Yeah. Awesome. So tell us about the association. What it is, what it does, and why it's impactful. Absolutely.
Yeah, so KCA, like you mentioned earlier in the intro, it's a commercial construction trade association. A lot of our contractors specialize in hospitals and on office buildings. We're what's considered a full service association, so we have union members and open shop members. Because we were founded in the late 1930s. And we were founded to be the management side of the of the union relationship. So we collectively bargain, and we represent union contractors at the bargaining table. And because of our storied history and our tradition, we're probably 90% union when it comes to our membership. And, the rest open shop. But yeah, I started here in fall of 2016. And like I said, it was a great welcoming in Pittsburgh. So I could tell you, we could walk downtown Pittsburgh. I could tell you buildings, who built it, what contractor, the history of the Pitt Cathedral, the largest educational building in the Western Hemisphere, was built by Stone and Webster. I know stupid facts like that. So I like history. I like construction history, where you like, Commonwealth and government history. I study, more sports and construction history. But, so I knew a lot in Pittsburgh when it came to the construction industry. And I moved to Harrisburg, and I thought, man, this is like brand new. This is like starting from scratch here. Like, what am I going to do? What did I get myself into? What am I going to do? And so I went from an association with 200 plus members, very stable, just a financially stable and just a solid group, to a group that back in its heyday, back in the 60s and 70s, was kind of the major player in Pennsylvania. And they've kind of downsized a little bit, I guess is a nice way to say it. And when I came on board, there were 26 members, and it's quite a difference. But I really didn't know the members, and I wanted to take that opportunity just so when I represent them, I know who I'm representing and know what challenges they have, what opportunities they have out there. So really spent that first, 6 months, that first year, just really getting to know that solid base of 26. You're the 26 that are still standing. We're going to work together. We're going to build this into something special. And, did a lot of meetings, talked to their executives, their leadership in the field, just kept going on, and talked to their subs and architects that work with them. Just wanted to know everything I could, every possible info. I wanted to know the details and everything. And on the troubling side and the sad side, I kept hearing more and more about opioids and how it's impacting our workforce and how it's impacting the construction industry in Pennsylvania. And I lived in Pittsburgh, and you read the paper, you see the nightly news, and you hear a lot about how opioids are negatively impacting our cities, our cultures, our communities. But I didn't really see it firsthand. And when you see it firsthand, and it's really sad, really brought some tears to my eyes, and through my job, I serve on apprenticeship boards. So management, it's half management, half labor. And we had back-to-back meetings in 2017 where they were talking about, the up and coming, like the star athlete who got into the carpenter's apprenticeship program and he died of a drug overdose. It started with pain meds, and once the script runs out, you move to something else, and, died of heroin or something, and it was back-to-back meetings, and I'm like, this is too much, like, oh my gosh, like, this is like, what are we going to do? We got to do something, and the board and myself, we kind of put our heads together and knew it was an issue. There's major pockets. I know you guys are Arizona, but in Pennsylvania, there's kind of major pockets where this really hits hard. This opioid epidemic is really hitting us hard, in certain areas in Pennsylvania.
Do you see a lot of construction workers using opioids, like even more so than, let's say, in other jobs? What kind of patterns do you see?
I don't see it firsthand. I don't see them directly using it, but in talking to the contractors and a lot of our labor partners, the carpenter reps, whatever, they kind of know, who's doing it, who might have issues, So yeah, I think, you read the stats, you read the studies. I think we're the second highest addiction rate, second highest issues. I guess addiction is the word I'm looking for. Second highest addiction rate behind hospitality. So it hits us really hard. But yeah, we're just like, we got to do something, So that's 2017. We started the Construction Opioid Awareness Week, and it's just a week in July, just dedicated just to talk about the issue, just to, construction's famous for its its toolbox talks, and it's famous for its special dates on the calendar, whether it's ladder safety or electrical safety or whatever. There's always like special dates on the calendar, and back 7-8 years ago, there was nothing really related to mental health week or mental health month or addiction month or addiction week or whatever. And there was for society at like a higher level, more of a general, but construction specific. There was nothing really directed at us. So, we took the initiative. We said, let's do this in Pennsylvania. And we talked to a lot of other associations across the state. We talked to some of our labor partners. And in 2017, like I said, we started the Construction Opioid Awareness Week. Got a lot of support from media that were writing about it and talking about it. Legislators or elected officials were promoting it as well. And it's just a week dedicated to providing resources, not only for the construction professionals and the workers, but we wanted to make a big impact. We know that it's impacting our community. So we were really encouraging everyone just to really, share with their families, share it in their communities. And it's an initiative like that. It's tough to judge, but, we did get some positive calls. That first year we had a couple workers that said, I'm in recovery, and no one knows that on the job site. It's like something we're not allowed to talk about. And through something like this, I feel like I could tell people and kind of tell my story, and what KCA is doing is good, so they, when you get those calls, it really encourages you and wants you to do more. So.
Do you see a connection or a crossover when it comes to abuse and mental health, just in generality? I'm aware that you're not a doctor, so I want to be clear about that to the listeners.
Yeah.
But you're more in it. You're looking for it, right? You're trying to solve a problem. So inherently you have more insight. And, mental health seems to be a thing that in the construction industry is talked about pretty often at this point. Maybe in 2017, less the case. Today, though, it seems to be a thing that you hear more often. Less about abuse, though. Less about alcohol and drug abuse. That seems to be less. Do you see correlations, connections? Is it just two bad, really crappy problems? Is it like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, we definitely see the connection, and a lot of the outreach that you see, other construction groups, whether that's in Pennsylvania or other states or national, whatever, within their mental health awareness activities and initiatives, there's always a bucket for, addiction and recovery, and that's part of the process. Unfortunately, it's part. So I definitely see a correlation, and it's just something that we just saw just a major issue, 7 years ago when it comes to the pain meds and the opioids. So we kind of labeled our outreach, opioid awareness, where it's kind of grown, and still, this past July, we still do the yearly recognition week, and we still do the opioid awareness week, and while we call it opioid awareness week, it's kind of mental health awareness. We talk about other issues just beyond addiction and other issues. It's just, I guess, history or tradition, like we were so used to calling it this for 6-7 years, calling it opioid awareness, and knowing that's still a major issue, still a major problem, but there's other issues too that need addressed as well. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's a bucket. It's our mental health awareness bucket is labeled opioid awareness for just due to that was kind of the initiative that kicked it all off for us, if that makes sense at all. Yeah.
No, that makes sense. It's trying to help effectively. What do you, in talking of helping, like where can a construction worker or anybody get help? Like where are places that are acceptable to do that, or a safer place to do that, as well as like what do you see companies and construction companies doing to help, like to bring the help to them?
Yeah, when it comes to help, early, like the first initiative we did, which is still impactful and very effective today, and we still encourage it every year. The first initiative was open the lines of communication, and it's okay to talk about issues. We had, I don't have my wallet on me. I don't know where I did. I think it's in a different room here. But we have on pharmacy cards and on medical cards, we have a sticker that says "Opioids warn me." And we worked with the National Safety Council, who's based in D.C., and they have like a footprint throughout the whole country in every state. And National Safety Council is very supportive. We went to them in 2016, 2017, told them about this issue, and they said, well, let us work with you to develop some resources. So they gave us these stickers that said "Opioids warn me." And you might be sitting there saying, well, once you go to a pharmacy once, you're not pulling that card out again. You just pulled out the first time, and what's the big deal? And I'm here to tell you the big deal is when you get that company owner or the executive, because we would really encourage the company owner or the safety director or the VP, someone, with some authority within the company, going to workers saying, here's this card, here's a sticker for your medical card and for your pharmacy card, and put this on your card, and how many family members do you have? Tell them, here's some extra stickers, make sure they put it on there. And then you deliver the message, you talk to them and just say, my door is always open. We care about you. You can talk about anything that you have, but this is my way of showing you that you're part of this work family. We care about you. And the feedback was just instantly tremendous. It was just from the worker side and from the executives. The executives are like, I've felt this, for years. I always felt like my door was open, and I always felt like, they knew I cared for them. But it wasn't until you actually initiate that conversation and get both sides talking and letting people know that it's okay to talk. It's okay not to be okay type is what you hear a lot. So, but it was really awesome the way that played out, and like I said, very impactful. And still every year we always remind people, and it seems like once a year we get either a new member or a company that's a longtime member that said, hey, we have a bunch of new employees. Can we get another, 100 stickers or whatever? So we're still doing those stickers every year, and it seems to work. So just doing our small part is what it's all about.
A lot of times it's doing a lot of small things, not doing one big thing, right? So some might say, well, what's a sticker? It's a sticker. But obviously you've seen the impact. So that's big. That's a huge component. That's got to feel good, obviously, knowing that you had impact on community. I know that you're very community driven. So kudos to you and the team at KCA.
Thank you. Thanks.
What can doctors do? So doctors are part of the issue, right? Mm-hmm. What can doctors do to help the laborers, the construction workers that start using opioids?
Like the sticker says, warn me. So step one is, this prescription has an opioid in it, and just, it sounds, you might think it sounds silly or whatever, and sometimes I do, but, people might not know it is addictive. I mean, it seems like it's everywhere. They make documentaries about it. They make movies about it. There's always talk about opioids. It's on the news, but there's still people out there that might not believe it. So the more you talk about it, the more education that gets out there, the more it is to make sure that sinks in. So that's kind of step one. Just let them know there's an opioid and what they're prescribing. Step two, are there alternatives? Do I really need to do this? Do I really need to take this? I had shoulder surgery last year, and the doctor prescribed opioids, and I was like, do I really need to take this? And the doctor's like, I had that same surgery 2 years earlier, and I didn't take anything. It was just different pain levels for different people. You just don't take it automatically because we prescribe it, and that's his message to me. And part of me was like, I'm not even picking it up. So I ended up picking it up. And that year, that would have been 2021 or 2022. I forget what year, but it was a couple weeks before Opioid Awareness Week. And we had a video kickoff. It was like a live video, and some people from around the state got on this Zoom, and we were talking about, it was like a Monday night. I still remember it was a Monday evening, and we're talking about the activities for the week. Excuse me. Activities for the week and the different toolbox talks that we're promoting, and the different, other events that we're hosting. And I said, before we kick it off, I want to do something. There is a packet that dissolves drugs. And I don't know if you've seen it. It's like a detox, whatever. If you don't know what to do with prescriptions, unused prescriptions. So I opened it up and I said, I'm going to do it live in front of all you guys. So I got my opioid pills and I put it in there and kind of kicked it off. And then we all were it was a little motivational thing, kind of, yeah, let's do this, let's get the message out this year. So it was a good rallying cry. So good stuff.
That's interesting. So I'm the same way, and I guess the DARE program worked for me, right? It's just I'm totally like I'm scared straight. Can't be taking prescription even when the doctor's like, hey, here you go. This is gonna hurt, so you need this. However, that's not the best mindset to have. It's the the abstinence mindset, like completely. Well, if I just remove any possibility of me, then I'll be good. However, like people do get surgeries that are very painful that you do need some form of treatment for. So how does that balance work? Like how do you determine like, should I take this? Should I not take this? What are doctors doing to help essentially, ease the fact that like, hey, like, yeah, it's addictive. It is addictive, but like we're only going to give you X amount or something like that.
Yeah, and that's. So I was in those shoes a couple months ago. My middle daughter, she's a competitive cheerleader, national champion, by the way. So I think we might have beat a team from Arizona. I'm not sure where all they come from, but it's all
good.
It's all good. No, I'm just joking. No, but she cheered for the past 4 years. She's now 16, and going into this 5th year, she had a knee injury, so she had to get the MCL repaired, and And I think because I talk about opioids and the dangers, parents tend to, talk about what they do, and kids pick it up and listen and call it brainwashing, call it whatever you call it, but but it happens, and she was really, really hesitant to take it, but she was really crying and screaming in pain, and the prescription was kind of minimal. So it was just kind of, if you need it by chance, here's some pills, and if you need more, call us or whatever. So they gave a very minimal amount, and we got through that. I mean, it was horrible. I was sitting there like just hugging her on the blow-up mattress in the living room because she couldn't go upstairs because of her surgery, you know. And she was just screaming in pain, crying in pain, and she's finally like, I'm taking it. I'm all right. We'll try it. And like she really held off as long as she possibly could, and so I don't know if that's good or bad. The doctor never really said anything. We told him, and he goes, okay, well, yeah, that's understandable for her to take it, and so yeah.
That's a very vivid story in my brain now. I don't know that's a hard time. Like that's a hard, because you are like, hey, we created Opioid Week, like Opioid, like we created all these things, and then you're not saying I don't want this, and it's like, but perhaps right now you do actually need this to manage your pain. So wow, that's a lot.
But it's just like anything in life, there's a purpose for it, and if you abuse it, then that's not good. So that's what I'm trying to.
So then how do construction companies help their people not fall into this? Because again, it is a little bit of the cyclical of like, I got injured. Like I had an injury. I fell off a scaffold, so whatever it is, right? I got injured, required some form of surgery, required then some sort of pain management. How do companies help, like, this division of like, your healthcare privacy in comparison to, we want to do the best for you. We want to help you as much as possible. How do companies help people not fall down the path of abuse?
So we're seeing over the past year or so, more and more construction companies are hiring a health and wellness manager. Mm-hmm. And their activities vary from company to company. I mean, you'll see morning stretches, before you work, you'll see stretching just to get the body limber and get it ready to work. I mean, that's not for ourselves. It is a physical demanding industry. Oh, yeah. And the more you do to prep your body and get ready for that, the better it is for your body. So we're seeing more stretching time and more pre-work activities just to get ready for it, which helps. Kind of got laughed off at first by some of the old timers, but now it's being more and more accepted. So any sort of change gets laughed off from time to time, but it's good to see that it's accepted now. So you have that. And then as far as other activities of those health and wellness managers, there's again resources, there's setting up anonymous numbers and calls. So if you leave work and you have an issue, you're like, do I do this? I mean, it could be anything from any sort of mental health issue, from, whether it's a pain and do I take something, to addiction, to, divorce, family issues, financial issues, any sort of thing that you might not know who to talk to or what to do, whatever. They set up these anonymous numbers that their workers can call and kind of get some answers perhaps, or get some guidance, just some sort of outlet for them, just instead of just guessing on their own. What should I do? My back hurts. What should I do? And let me Google that, and instead of that, it's more of a reliable source that you're talking with.
Yeah. That's like an employee assistant program of some sort.
Yeah. And we're actually seeing, it sounds silly and can't believe I'm saying this, but like years ago, 10 plus years ago, I don't know if construction's unique, or I don't know if the area I'm in is unique, but it seems like there was employee assistance programs, but a lot of times the foremen, the superintendents, the people in charge of workers, they didn't know the number, they didn't know who to call, they didn't know details on this, and you hear stuff like, well, the more we use this EAP, the more we pay for it, so let's kind of limit the use here. You know, so you hear rumors like that. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But you hear stories like that. You know, but there seems like nowadays, you know, with their paychecks or with any sort of company mailings, you know, you see it everywhere. Like you go to the office, you see the poster on the wall. Here's the EAP number, and emails. You see it everywhere. So it's been very refreshing and an awesome outreach by construction companies to really get that information out there.
It's actually interesting. The 10 years ago, not the people in charge effectively not knowing this. It's like that's the epitome of like, well, we checked the box.
Mm-hmm.
We have a program. Like
Yep.
there's a program, but like that doesn't mean anything. And then obviously, depending on if people had the mindset of like, well, this is a cost, not an investment.
Yep.
That goes to like, you know, for us at Building Scale, it's like people process technology, like you have to invest in your people. And like, this is the epitome. Like, hey, when your people need help in whatever case, it doesn't have to be mental health or drug abuse or anything like that. Like you need to provide them with resources that will help them. And is there money? Is there cost to it? Yes, there certainly is. But like, you know, everybody complains about like, there's no one hiring problems and all these things. It's like, well, if you take care of the people that are there, like you have less of a, you know, a problem hiring more people because you don't need to replace as many people. So like, it's the mindset of like, hey, this is an investment, not a cost center.
Yeah. And that's important that you said that. Like you don't have to hire as many people if you help the current ones. Mm-hmm. And that's something I'm constantly saying. And actually just an hour ago before this call, I was on a Zoom with the Pennsylvania labor secretary, and we spent a lot talking about workforce development and workforce activities, and we got to promote construction. And I'm like, yeah, that's half the battle. I mean, that's very important. Don't get me wrong, that's very important. But it's also just as important to help the current workers that we have and make sure they're good to go. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
No, totally. I'm glad we're on the same page. And you know, me and the director of labor in Pennsylvania, we, you know, like, you know, we're all having the same conversation, even in Arizona.
Good stuff. Can I share with you something new we're doing? This is
absolutely. Please.
I'm kind of excited about it, so I think it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're doing a lot of outreach when it comes to mental health awareness, and starting now, we're mailing these, which I can email it to you after. It's a magnet. Like I say, email it if you want to send it on your email, whatever.
Sure.
But it's a magnet that stick on your fridge, stick on the job site trailer, stick anywhere where there's high traffic, just for workers. And it's part of this whole communication and get people talking, get people thinking about mental health issues. And it just kind of starts off saying, you know, are you okay? It's okay not to be okay. And then we list a couple facts, 1 in 5 construction workers struggle with some sort of anxiety, depression, mental health. So we kick it off with some facts, and then we have some bullet points of some very important numbers, you know, from 911 to 988, the suicide prevention number hotline, to I'm sure Arizona has this, but Pennsylvania has certain numbers, you know, crisis hotlines, whatever. So we have them listed, and veterans have a lot of issues, so we have some veteran resources on it as well. And so yeah, we're really excited about that. We're getting this out to members, and members started calling us saying, oh, so we sent each one magnet, and we said, if you want any more, let us know. So we're getting some calls now, and they say, oh, we need 10 or 20 or whatever. So it's cool to get embraced, and it's cool when you do something, and I'm jazzed up about it. So I'm kind of excited. So we'll see what happens.
That's awesome. I love that. I love when new stuff, the excitement, things that you're passionate about, you know, having impact. That's my jam.
There you go.
I could attest to what I talk about all the time.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay. So you were talking about, talking to some important people, essentially within legislation.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you talk a little bit about what you've helped push through legislation? I think that's pretty important. Because having an impact, right, at the ground level is one thing, but having it at a legislative level, that's something different. So, and I think it all kind of works together.
Yeah.
Want to talk about that for a bit?
Yeah, sure, for sure. Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up. Good question. So it's pretty much the resolutions. So, at the state level, we had some state senators and some state reps introduce a resolution to recognize, this last full week of July is going to be this year's annual Construction Opioid Awareness Week. So that was cool. I was excited. And within the resolution, we have, different activities that a construction employer could make happen during that week, whether it's have a drug take back day at the job site, or have a toolbox talk on X, whatever topic, that you think your workers want to know about. So we did that at the state level. And along with that, there were some different press conferences and some different events. And I like the one at job sites. I mean, the ones at the Capitol, they're kind of stuffy and boring and blah, 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 But if you go to the training center where the workers are, you go to the job site where the workers are, and you get the politician talking right in front of, a bunch of workers behind them. They're all lined up behind them. And it's cool, the first couple minutes, it's cool with the cameras on and capturing the video. But then after that, when the video shuts off and you see the interaction and you're talking with the legislators and you're telling them, then they're hearing directly from the workers how this is helping them and their families. And it's just awesome to see, but it gets better. It gets better here. So like I said, we started this in 2017 and it was awesome. Just great stuff. And within a year or so, I get a call from Boston, from the Building Trades Council up in Boston, Massachusetts. And they said, hey, I read an article. We were actually in the Wall Street Journal, which is crazy in my mind that I would be quoted in the Wall Street Journal of starting this.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, it should not be that weird. You're a journalist major, right?
I guess so. Yeah, I guess.
The thought was
sports journalism, man.
The Wall Street Journal.
Yeah. So I get a call from Boston, and they say, hey, we saw this article. Like, what's this all about? Because, we have a pretty bad issue up here as well. And so I explained to them why we're doing this, what we're doing, and how employers can help on the issue. And a year later, next thing you know, I'm getting calls saying, hey, we're doing it up here in Boston. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And then I get a call from Illinois, and they're calling me saying, hey, we heard about this from National Safety Council. They're writing some articles about it. And we called them and they said, we need to talk to you. I'm like, oh, well, that's cool. So I'm talking to Illinois, and there are different legislators getting involved, and they're doing resolutions out there, and they picked it up. And then probably about a year ago or so, Messer Construction, I think they're called Messer. They're pretty big out of Cincinnati, Ohio. And they said, hey, we do, quarterly safety director meetings. Can you come and talk? And I'm like, what do you want to talk about? I'm like, should we talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers? What do you want to talk about? What are you talking about? And they're like, no, serious stuff, like the opioid outreach you're doing. I'm like, oh yeah, sure. So, and then through AGC Network, different large contractors are contacting us saying, this is great what you're doing. And so it kind of encourages us, our little small team, and encourages us and gets us motivated. I think we're doing something good. And if everyone does something good, I think we can continue to make a difference.
No, that was when we first talked, it was, talking about opioids, mental health, all these things. And it's outside the realm generally of building scales, kind of, people, process, technology, how do you grow your business, but totally matters, right? Like in all this, and seeing, hey, you had an idea, you wanted to help, you wanted to have impact. And now, Boston, Illinois, Cincinnati, all the other contractors that you're dealing with. It's like, that is effectively it, right? How do you scale up and have massive impact across the country based on an issue that is plaguing the industry? So that for us, we had to have you on to talk more about it and hopefully give you a little bit more reach for our listeners. And hopefully if a listener has an issue, hears this and knows how to get help.
Yeah. We're coming to Arizona. Come on, this podcast is going to bring us to Arizona.
Yeah. Actually, Will's out of Illinois. So look, you got.
Oh, Will, there you go.
So if you need some, references in the Illinois discussions and what you're doing there, and then obviously Arizona, I'm your guy. So
awesome.
Totally.
Nice. Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to just ask, so what other legislation? So obviously we've talked a whole bunch about mental health and these things, but like, not to say that that's not crucially important, but what are other things that you've done in, these 7 years? I know it's not always mental health and opioid stuff. There's lots of other issues that you're dealing with. So what are some other things that you've pushed through legislation or helped guide through legislation?
Well, we have in Pennsylvania what we call the Separations Act. It's a construction procurement issue. We are the last state standing that still mandates multiple primes for a public construction project. Yeah. So typically, Arizona State, they're going to build a new building. They'll talk to an architect, they'll talk to a GC, a CM, whatever, and make it happen, and then you'll have a great podcast on this new project, and you'll talk about how it's so efficient and such a great building, and it's great for the community, and it was built on time, on budget. We can only dream of that in Pennsylvania. So in Pennsylvania, we have at least 4 prime contractors on every project, on every public project. Let me just tell you public. 4. So it's the GC, the general trades package. There's the electric, the plumbing, HVAC. And as one can imagine, if you try and, coach a football team with 4 head coaches, you're going to see lots of confusion, a lot of finger pointing. It's going to be a mess. Well, public construction is a mess in Pennsylvania. And like I said, we're the last state. Chicago changed their law, at least 10 years ago. I think 15 years ago, maybe. And then the last previous was Ohio. The state of Ohio changed theirs 10 years ago, but we're the last one standing. And it dates back to 1913. And it all goes back to history, Justin. Everything goes back to history.
I was just about to say, you're the only Commonwealth as well that has this in place.
So in 1913, I'm like, well, you know what? I like history. So I've been known to watch History Channel a little too much and known to read some history books way too much. But I'm like, let me really dig into this Separations Act. What is this all about? Where does this come from? What's going on with this? And I've been at this issue 20 years, so it's kind of, embarrassing to say that. But
got to keep working at it.
I know we got to. But I looked into it, and in 1906, Pennsylvania completed its major renovation to the state capitol building. It's a beautiful building. Have you guys been to Pennsylvania at all? Have you ever been to Harrisburg?
I have.
You've seen the Capitol? It's beautiful. Yeah, beautiful. And our president, was that Roosevelt? I forget who was president in 1906. I wrote an article about it. I could share with you guys if you guys want to see it.
We could throw it in the show notes too.
Oh, there you go. So for the ribbon cutting ceremony at the end, the president showed up and claimed the fame as saying this is the most handsomest building I've ever seen, and it was great press. That was like headlines on all the papers. So that was 1906 when that happened. 1907, 1908-ish, that time frame, we get a new state auditor, and they start discovering that there's over $7 million of unaccounted for funds associated with the public, the construction of the Capitol building. So that equates to today's dollars of over 220 million or something crazy.
It's some ridiculous number. Yep.
Yeah. So they're like, how does this happen? So this state auditor, just kept going after it, kept trying to get data, kept going on and on and on. And it took like a three-year issue where he was really researching it, looking into it. And they discovered that the general contractor, the architect, and the previous state auditor were the ringleaders behind this scheme. And they were getting all this like fake invoices, and they were just making materials up. They're making all this stuff up to the tune of over $7 million. Those 3 get convicted in some of their top aides. So I think a total of 5 people went to jail. And this gentleman, the state auditor, which I'm drawing a blank on his name, but it will be in the article when I give it to you. He takes this new fame, because it was across the paper, it was across the state in a bunch of newspapers, and he was getting a lot of press. And this state auditor, saved the day. He's trying to, he's cleaning up public corruption, and so he takes this fame and decides, I'm going to run for governor of Pennsylvania. So in 1912 election, he runs against, I forget, is it William Tenner? And his last name's Tenner, I believe. But he was an ex-Pittsburgh Pirate, famous congressman, and the Republicans are like, this Democrat's getting a lot of fame. It's a famous guy, through this public corruption scheme. He's getting a lot of fame, and we need someone more famous. So they get an ex-baseball player / now congressman. We're going to run against him. And it was so close, and the ex-pirate ended up winning. But the issue wasn't going away. So the newspapers are still writing about it, still talking about it. And a year later, they say, all right, the governor Tenner says we're going to clean up public corruption, and we're going to enact what we're calling the Separations Act. So the mindset being that, you get this public project and we're going to break it into 4 pieces and they're all going to watch each other. Yeah. So there's and it wasn't just Pennsylvania related. It was public corruption like that across the country. Yeah. And most of the states mandated some sort of multiple prime requirement. And knowing that it's costly and waste schedule and waste budget, waste money, every state but us has changed their law since the early 1900s. But yeah, it's a fascinating issue. It's fascinating to me over the past, 30, 40 years. It goes back and forth. Who supports it? Democrats support it, then Republicans support. When I say support change in the law, you'll see Democrats, and then a couple years later, the Republicans. And I'm trying to rack my head around this and trying to think of another issue that's so unique that goes back and forth between political parties. And I'm sure there's something out there that I'm not thinking of, and it might be very obvious. Maybe one of your listeners knows a good issue, but I'm having trouble thinking of an issue like this. It's very unique.
So is that currently something that you're obviously trying to help get changed currently?
Yeah. So we're trying to change that, and for years it was, our group, the contractor associations work together, and we would get like the school board association, they would work with us, but Pennsylvania is one of those strong labor states, and there's labor groups that support the status quo. There's labor groups that are with us, and then there's a bunch in the middle that could care less either way. But we couldn't, over the past 20 years since I've been involved, we couldn't get any labor support to side with us publicly. Behind closed doors, they're like, "Oh, we're with you all the way, yeah." So we just kept telling them, "Hey, New Jersey, they changed their law 15 years ago. Ohio changed theirs. Illinois, all those states, they got a lot of labor support to help change theirs." And finally, just within the past year or two, there's now unions that are more out in front of it than we are, which is awesome, and they're really pushing to change it. And now the legislature is like, "Oh, I guess we got to address it." There's a lot of people. We have this long list of coalition members of, airport authorities to labor unions to green sustainability groups. We have all the green sustainability groups, and a little fact, there's multiple prime really impedes green sustainable projects. Because if you look at the new version of LEED version 5, there's a lot of pre-construction work. So you need that teamwork, you need that collaboration. And how do you get collaboration when you have 4 captains steering a ship? It's very difficult. So, but the stars are aligning, I think, and I think we're going to get something to happen here. So we'll see.
All right. Well, I'll have to keep watching the ticker essentially and see how that shakes out for you.
Yeah. And now that I see your shirt, there's kind of I think there's 3 colleges that have done a ton of research on construction models, different systems, whenever comparing design build and CM at risk and everything. And Arizona State, Penn State University, and University of Texas. Those 3 just have awesome research and awesome studies, and so thank you.
Well, Arizona State is the reigning 7 years in a row most innovative university in the country, above MIT. So we're a big deal down here in Tempe, Arizona. Let me tell you that.
Yes. Hey! Don't let that sun get to your head.
That's also a piece of the beauty of Arizona State, for sure.
So that's about it. Just working on a 100-year-old mandate.
No issue changing 100-year-old laws. That's what I say.
Yeah. But I'll definitely keep the podcast updated. When we change this law, I'm going to call you guys and say, it's time to celebrate.
We'll have to have a virtual cheers.
There you go. Nice.
Awesome. So we got one more question for you. We ask every guest we have on. Will, kick it off here. Kick it away.
Yeah. So if you were to go back 20 years, what would you tell yourself? What advice would you give yourself? Would you change anything?
Advice, but I changed 20 years ago.
Would you have listened to yourself? That's the other question.
I probably would not have listened to myself. I tend to be on the stubborn side. You can ask my wife about that. I'd say just really, I've been really fortunate to have great coaches in youth sports and high school sports and Navy supervisors, whatever. And it's not till you get the gray hairs and you get old and you sit there and think, oh man, that made a lot of sense. And that guy like embrace smart people early on. It just seems like you're so full of gung ho and you're so motivated to change the world. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do it my way, and you look back and you're like, I'm kind of doing what they say, and I've just received tons of great advice over the years. So I would just say embrace good advice, is what I would say to my younger self.
Well, I think
that makes tons of sense.
I love that you talked about that. I think the frontal lobe doesn't actually fully develop until like the age of 25 or something like that. So, us boys being boys and being sort of young and stupid, there's a reason for that. We don't get our executive functionality until 25, maybe even later.
So realistically, I'm only like 11 years old.
There you go. I feel 11.
No, this is great. If people wanted to get a hold of you, what's the best way for them to do that?
I'd say email is probably good. It's Jon, I spell it correctly, Jon at KeystoneContractors.com. That's one word, Keystone Contractors. And they could call, I always forget this, I always butcher this. They can call the office if they want. Oops. 717, I'll just give out my cell. You guys look like friendly people here. 717-884-2801. Call, text anytime. You got a friend in Pennsylvania.
That's awesome. We love that. I will throw all that stuff into the show notes, as well as your article when you send it. And as we leave, is there anything else you'd like to tell the people before we say our goodbyes?
No, this was very enjoyable. I got a lot from it, and I'm glad we connected. I think we connected on LinkedIn, I believe. So I'm glad that happened. Looking forward to your interview, Justin. And then Will, you're going to tee it up first, and then we'll get Will to back clean up, and clean it up after you. So we'll get both.
Sounds good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, he's certainly my closer for sure. 1,000%. Nice. Awesome. Well, audience, I hope you had a great time. We know we did. Obviously, we talked about a pretty serious topic. If there's a thing that somebody, or if you have issues, please reach out. If not to Jon directly, to anybody you can. I'm always available to help anybody, anytime. Even if I'm not the right resource, I'll put you in touch with the right resource. Will as well. So with all that said, we hope you had a good time. Until next time, adios.
Adios.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Building Scale. To help us reach even more people, please share this episode with a friend, a colleague, or on social media.
Remember, the 3 pillars of scaling a business are people, process, and technology.
And our mission is to help the AEC industry protect itself by making technology easy.
So if you think your company's technology pillar could use some improvement, book a call with us to see how we can help maximize your IT and cybersecurity strategy. Just go to buildingscale.net/help.
And until next time,
keep building scale.